Hey everyone, and welcome to the Perfect Bite podcast, your fusion of food and entrepreneurship. You'll hear stories from chefs, restaurateurs, CPG brands, and more from the food and bev industry. All of them are at different points in their journeys, talking about their experiences and how they've cooked up something new. Let's dig in. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Perfect Bite podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Perkins. Before I fell in love with startups and working with folks in food and bev, I was convinced I was going into book publishing. I even took a picture of the doors at Penguin when I studied abroad in London, just to have a snapshot of a storied institution. I was so happy to connect with today's guest, who is actually taking that dream to a whole other level, helping cookbook writers share their stories and recipes with the world. Please welcome senior literary agent and lead of the Ekus Group, Sally Ekus.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sally. I'm so happy to see you today.
Thank you so much for having me for this conversation.
Thanks so much for hopping on. I think this is just such a unique angle of looking at an element of the food and bev business. We all love cookbooks. We can talk through this, but the roller coaster of print publishing and how we're starting to see folks excited again about holding something in their hands and having something beautiful to actually cook with.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I always love to take things back to the beginning here. When did you first fall in love with food? What were those favorite foods as a kid? And what was eating and cooking like growing up in your home?
Well, I was really fortunate to grow up in a pretty food-focused home. I, as we will discover in today's conversation, did not just stumble into being a literary agent for cookbook authors. I grew up surrounded by food and books. When I was a child and my parents were married, they were running a public relations firm almost exclusively for cookbook authors. So when publishers in what we call like the good old days would send authors on multi-city book tours to promote their book, it was Lisa and Lou coordinating those tours, booking the tours, setting up media in each of those cities. And so I grew up eating great food and being exposed to really delightful foods that now I think like foodie focused parents make a conscious effort to introduce to their kids, but it was really just like a part of how I grew up and how my sister and I were raised.
Amazing. And what were some of those foods? Were you also getting to taste test from any of these chefs that your parents were working with?
Yeah, one of my earliest culinary memories is being counter height. So between being counter height and my parents still being married, I was young. So like maybe I was 5, 6, and turning the corner to go into the kitchen. And I don't know if like maybe looking back, they were testing recipes or just doing like some sort of food adventure with friends, but they were making homemade sausage, which was like, so I turned the corner, I was counter height, and like on the counter was just like in my mind what were like blubs of like making the sausage. And that's a like stark olfactory visual taste smell memory that I have as a kid. I don't know if I ate sausage for a little while, but I did come to love and appreciate sausage. I don't know. I grew up eating, my dad used to make these like amazing grilled chicken thighs. My mom's, Lisa's chicken and cheese dish is still a beloved favorite in our house, which I think is just like chicken covered in cheese drenched in wine. I don't know. There's tarragon in there somewhere. But yeah, I mean, all the yummy things.
My goodness. I love that. And chicken and cheese, that does sound like something
chicken
that
and cheese. It's an official recipe trail right there.
Trademark right there.
Yeah.
That would be definitely a fancy version of what you'd find at my Midwestern families, like
there you go. Yeah.
big holidays. Yes.
Yeah.
So you grew up around the industry. And I mean, you and I even have mutual friend Norman Van Aken. You knew some really incredible folks, even from an early age. Tell us then about you deciding you want to go into essentially the family biz. Your mom started the Ekus Group. Was it something that you came to on your own? Did you have any other steps before getting there?
Yeah, so I actually didn't intend to take on what had become the family business and now is carried forward. I was on a very different path professionally. So if you had asked, I've been working in the food industry and in publishing for 16 years now. But if you had asked me 20 years ago, what does Lisa do? I would have said something around food and books. And, you know, I grew up Like Julia Child was at our house. Emerald was in our kitchen. Norman. Holy, I mean, like all the luminaries and then everyone in between. Very lucky, but like that was them. That was what Lisa was involved in. That was not my path. And so I went to school for sociology and I was on a path to get my master's in social work. So I was working in inpatient psychiatric unit setting and I really loved it and it was amazing. And at the time I was being trained in active listening, negotiation, crisis counseling. And that training carries forward in working with authors today, but nobody's life is on the line when they don't love their book cover. It's something that we take seriously and we navigate and I can advocate for, but it's a book cover, right? And so it's a different setting. So I was on the path for social work. I deferred from grad school, moved back home. I had about a year that my mom said, you have a year to be home and figure out what you want to do. I started helping out at the agency in the meantime, just to have a job and kind of figure out to get my feet on the ground and really fell in love with it. I mean, it was really clear I'd been informally training for this my whole life. I had a knack for it. I understood the historical legacy of cookbooks, but I was learning it in real time, modern day publishing. And so that's when I decided to pause the trajectory to become a social worker and make the conscious decision to then join what became the family business.
Wow. Was your mom just so excited? Was she like,
yes. Yes. And, you know, she really, truly wanted, like my sister and I have always had freedom to pursue any professional goals that we have. And I think that's why it felt like a natural evolution and conversation when it came up.
I'm glad. And I love how you connected sociology to those elements, say, of negotiation, active listening, because you are not just helping put recipes down. These are folks' stories or things that really matter a lot to them. And so being able to feel like that safe space for them, I'm sure helps get a lot of great material.
Yeah, I mean, they don't call agents pseudotherapists for nothing. I could say at least I worked in the field a little while. But I know enough to know what I don't know and when to bring in other resources and sources of support because writing a book is hard. Being in publishing is hard. And a lot of life happens before you sign a book contract and after. And so it's not that they happen in mutually exclusive parts of your life and your identity. And I really understand that.
Yes. And the sense that people always say when you're being entrepreneurial or being, say, an artist, a writer, anything within those fields, a culinary artist, oh, you should be able to separate business from yourself. It all feels so incredibly personal, especially writing, I will say.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I yes, agreed.
So tell us a little bit about the early days here. I'm so excited to get into the nitty gritty of what really happens behind the scenes here. What do you think has really changed from your perspective and then your mother Lisa's perspective? Those early days with the Ekus Group started in the early 80s. So we're at almost 45 years of business. Incredible. What's it really been like? What has changed the most? And take us behind the scenes. How do you really get a cookbook published?
Well, fast forward to today, it's a lot more formulaic, I think, and formalized. I mean, there's certainly the exceptions where an agent hears someone speaking, they sign them on the spot, and the editor's in the audience, and a deal comes out of thin air at a conference. You know, I've lived that. It happens. But more often than not, you work on a proposal for your idea. You labor what's in that document. You research agents. You query them. If you're lucky, you get a reply. You meet them. And, you know, it's a long process. But when I was growing up, I was around these authors who were going out on multi-city book tours, and there were publishers investing money in all authors across the board, big, medium, small, front list, back list, mid list. It was just a very different time. And much like any industry, it evolves and changes, some for the better, some for the not. And I've really lived watching that in the period of time that I've lived and been working in publishing. And of course, there are things that came before me and will be things that come down the pike in the future. But there's a lot more noise. It's a lot more competitive. And the requirement to be more than a great author has never been more profound. So when I was growing up around these authors, they were experts. And now experts can get published, but a lot of people who have a big audience who have a passion and maybe are newer on the scene and haven't lived as much lived experience as an expert also have an opportunity to publish. And in some ways, that's very exciting. And in other ways, that's really frustrating, especially for longtime experts.
Yes, I was going to ask if essentially that rumor was true that, you know, when you're now getting into different mediums, when you're getting ready to publish your first book for the first time, or you're involved in even getting cast, say, in a television series, that folks are looking at your social media numbers and whether they think you'd actually be a good investment versus, like you said, being an expert in a certain field.
Yeah, I mean, yes. And that's an evolution of the shift in the marketplace and what discoverability looks like and a lot of different components. I mean, it's possible to get published without that. Is it harder? Yeah. But I don't think that's a good reason not to. And I should differentiate that we're talking specifically about nonfiction. Like in fiction, that requirement is a bit more of a bonus
Got
to
it.
publishers and agents. Yeah.
Yeah. And I definitely get it from the marketing side of things. Like, this is where folks are now. Have you already built the space? Are we going to have to invest more in you or in the campaigns themselves to actually get
Right.
you out there and make this a success? So I understand on some level.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, how are you sourcing authors these days? Really, what's a great cookbook for you? What's a great food writing book? How are you finding folks? Are you also, searching Instagram?
Yeah, I mean, on the cookbook side, I think that agents and editors look at Instagram, TikTok, and newsletters right now more than other platforms. In other nonfiction categories, it might be a little bit more LinkedIn or a little bit more newsletter driven, although it's pretty newsletter driven right now. And I'm very blessed to have a long legacy of clients to carry forward now that Lisa has retired. So I have clients that are semi-active or more inactive that I'm still responsible for and overseeing. And so I'm not always adding new clients to my list at the same pace maybe a more junior agent would be. Though I do scout. I scout online and at conferences, events, word of mouth, things I read. And then a lot of clients come through current client recommendations. Hey, I know this is your working style. So-and-so's looking for an agent. I think you'd fit well. So current clients will make recommendations, or editors that I work with frequently will say, hey, this is someone I have my eye on and I'm suggesting 2 agents. I'd love for you to be one of them. And that's often how people come to be represented by me as well. And then there's, of course, over the sort of general query process where people send a query through our submission guidelines, which I'll send so you can put it in show notes, and people will submit for representation that way as well. And it happens, but it's a little bit more rare that someone would purely become a new client solely through like that cold call submission, because if you're really working in the culinary space, it is unlikely that you haven't crossed paths with at least somebody in my culinary atmosphere in some way or another. It doesn't have to be a client, but I've been doing this for 16 years. Our agency's been around for over 40. We know some of the same people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It sounds like warm intro is still the way to go, even if you're like, hey, I know someone through so-and-so through so-and-so.
Exactly. Yes. Yep. And then I'm dropping that so-and-so a note to be like, hey, do you really know so-and-so?
Right. So-and-so? And what do you think of them? Yeah. Are they legit?
Yeah. Or like, do you think you know me really well? Do you think we would work well together?
Yeah.
Because in addition to proposals, I'm signing people.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Again, you are working with essentially what is talent.
Right, exactly.
And figuring out, can I get them out there? How are we getting you out there? What kind of media training do you need?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
And so what's it like for you then to work closely with editors at some of these larger houses? Again, Penguin Random House and HarperCollins and Simon and Schuster, and again, these very storied, pun intended, institutions.
Yeah. It's great. It's frustrating. It's all the things in between. My clients are authors. I work for the author. The people that I say, like, I represent, it's the author, it's the creative, it's the talent. And I'm working regularly with editors. And so balancing how you approach client advocacy in a way that leaves everyone feeling like this has been navigated and resolved successfully is really important to me. And a bunch of agents have different styles, but I'm not in there like, hey, it's our way or the highway, because we're on a highway with a bunch of other lanes and I want to make sure we're all moving in the same direction. So I really enjoy working with the big five. I also work with independent publishers and kind of everyone in between, because I am an agent that takes on projects of all sizes. And so by definition, that also means I'm working with publishers of all sizes.
Yeah. What would you say have been the biggest difficulties within print publishing specifically alone? Let's say the last 10, 15 years. Post 2010. So let's talk post big recession here. And just the absolute meteoric rise of different types of technologies, how we're consuming information and mediums. And again, I'm really, really happy just as a reader myself and someone who loves cookbooks and also who loves to gift cookbooks to say like, no, this is still so important despite everything else that might be changing.
Yeah, cookbooks have been fortunate that they were not as hit or impacted negatively by the digitization of the electronic wave of book selling. Because people want to hold cookbooks, they want to bring them in the kitchen, even with tons of recipes online. But I think like all of the challenges that come up for me around discoverability or platform or reader or expert or novice, like all of the different things that are hurdles can be encapsulated under the theme of noise. Everything is just noisier. So by definition, publishers have had to change their model, or authors have had to be spokespeople, or there's 17 more distribution options. So how do we differentiate? Like everything is just more crowded and noisy. And so all of the hurdles that I think have changed or come up over the past like 10, 15 years fall under that umbrella theme to me, but we could tinker or get into each of them. But there's also gifts that have come of that too, right? It means that you can start making sourdough in your closet and share it, and there's a kindling of something that catches fire and then just takes off, and all of a sudden you have an opportunity to share a passion that would have never been on the table otherwise. So, through the challenges of the noise have also come really beautiful opportunities. And and the sociologist in me like observes, reflects, asks some questions about the why, and then applies that to what I do day to day.
Yeah. And how do you think something like book talk is coming into play here?
Well, I'll tell you this. If you had asked me this a couple of weeks ago, I would have had a slightly less specific answer. But they talk about book talk having this like magical energy to it. And it's a way for books to be discovered and for them to find some success. And I had a book, this wasn't a food book actually, but we have a book that just caught the algorithm on TikTok recently in a way that we, being the author, the editor, and now the digital insights team, has taken note of. And it really just caught whatever that hook is and sold thousands of copies in a very short period of time. And it's been really cool. And, in cookbooks, that's not often the case. And again, like I said, this wasn't a food book, but to see how the sort of digital energy can really infuse, not make or break, but really propel a book has been really exciting to live in real time.
Yeah. Add that little extra fire that you didn't think could be possible if it does happen. And I'm sure you're hoping it's organic. I'm sure there are times too where you're saying, hey, we got to have a budget for certain influencers to help just get this going.
And that's the thing is like you invest in helping it into that universe, and then you pay attention, and then reinvest when it makes sense to keep that momentum going. It's why I'm so obsessed with the backlist. Like when a book is not new anymore, it doesn't, like, I just beg authors to not give up. Like if it didn't catch that ride at the very beginning, it is so not over. And like no one is going to care about your book more than you, the author. But if you stop caring, or if you let that like become deflating, like you are missing an opportunity, because something could shift in the zeitgeist, something could happen online, something just can happen. I've seen it over and over and over again. And a book that is 6 months, a year, 2 years old, quote unquote, your publisher's not prioritizing the media pitches around it. But if you are out there working for your book, you are going to benefit, and the book is going to benefit. And I really try to drill that home with authors.
I think that's just such a good lesson for any type of entrepreneur too. So again, when you're thinking of a cookbook author, you might say, yes, writer, artist, but they've decided to do this for some sense of revenue, right? They are
Right.
looking to sell. And so that's nice to hear as well as an early podcaster, because I just hear from folks, it's going to take 2 years before you're
Yeah.
where you think you should be right now. And I think that's for everyone. There are very, very few actual overnight successes. And I'm
Yes.
sure the books for you that really do sell like hotcakes, it's because that person already has a name and a following behind them.
Yeah.
And it's easier marketing from that sense.
Yeah, I mean, the podcast is a great example. In going back in a few months to look at what were the early episodes, what are the themes, how can I repurpose this? I have a whole new community of listeners that probably didn't even know here are the first few people. You'd like to think they're going in and starting
Yes.
at episode 1, but especially as more episodes come out, they're not. And so you can say, oh, I'm getting a chance to know Sally and what she's into. So I want to make sure I'm going to follow up with her. These are the 2 episodes I think would resonate most with you based on what we talked about. Then I listened to them and I'm like, oh my gosh, Sarah's conversation with Norman was making me cry and it had all these themes. And so I'm going to make sure that my client who's working in a restaurant and just getting started is listening to that. And that's the momentum of basically working your this whole time. Like the hustle is real.
The hustle's so real. I thank you, one. And two, like, just such a good reminder. I always have folks, again, as we're recording this, I'm only about 5.5 months in.
Right.
And it's been such a joy. Again, a lot of it comes from the network I've built over the years through just the work I've been doing. So much fun when you and I, total strangers, connected.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
a publicist reaches out to me, or a
Right.
guest themselves just goes, I really want to do this. And so it does just take some kindling here. And yeah, the reminder that 5.5 months in,
Right.
plenty of people are like, so have you monetized a lot already? And I'm like, I do not have those numbers yet, but you can help me by continuing to download.
Right. And it's all part of that pie. I mean, you're not like, oh, this piece of the pie is where I'm going to make all my revenue. They're all connected. And that's the same with book publishing. The book is a piece of the pie. So is a podcast. So is a speaking circuit. So are the prints you make from the art in your book, like whatever it is. Yeah.
Oh, that just made me think of Jacques Pepin and
exactly. Yeah.
the fact that he is so multi-talented and his prints sell for thousands.
Right. Right. But would they have 20 years ago?
Maybe not as much versus 90 at 90.
Right. It's incredible. And so it's taken him a lifetime to be, I mean, he's not an overnight success, but that's what they say is, it takes a lifetime to become an overnight success. So let's be in that lifetime together, everyone.
Absolutely. Let's talk about that a little bit more for some of your newer authors. So say you're not working with the Normans, Julias, Emeralds, Jacques of the world, which again, they also all started off somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When you're discovering someone new or when you've been approached with someone new, what about their proposal or their style really sticks out for you? And you say, that's an Ekus Group book more than anything.
Yeah. I've been thinking about that a lot. And I'm always thinking about that because it evolves too with my personal taste and experience. But I would say the tone and voice and like just the meat of it has to be of interest to me. Even if it's a fantastic proposal, if it's just like at the bottom of my inbox, I'm not doing you any favors by holding on to it. You deserve an agent that's going to prioritize it. Yeah. So if there's a proposal that really just like sucks me in and I lose track of my alerts on DMs and my email and my Slack and my everything else, I really take note of that. And then I tend to love a well-educated client, meaning they like to know about how this is going to go down in addition to being along for the ride. So I tend to attract clients that want to understand the publishing process a little bit more than maybe someone that is going to be really great at writing their book, but really they don't like care how it works. I could probably make my life a little bit easier if I didn't sign all the clients that want to know the process the whole way, but that's okay. And yeah, so voice, topic, and just a really solid proposal, like somebody who wants to, I've written about this, like write, not rushed. Like if you are anxious and eager because it has to get out, you might be right. And maybe it does need to go out the door tomorrow. But like on principle, if you're not willing to be patient, it's really hard for me to work with you because there's just so many points in the making of a book where patience is going to serve us. And those are the kinds of people that I'm looking to work with.
Yeah. And it is that sense of you want this to be as perfect as possible. You know,
Yeah.
if you rush it, you're going to see mistakes. People are going to notice it's just slapped together here. So speaking of education too, which I love, you want someone who's really excited to just know everything. You have such a wide breadth of topics and authors that you work with. I'm sure it's really fun for you too. You have to research these different backgrounds so that you're saying, yes, that's factual, or hey, what about this element that we haven't brought in yet?
Yeah, I mean, just this morning, somebody was pitching me a concept, and I was like, this is what I'm hearing about this topic. And I don't see that in what they're bringing to the table in the proposal, but I've heard it in a lot of other avenues. And if it's not in there, I don't know that it's right for me because that's not the angle that I would take. And yeah, I tend to work with a lot of really specific concepts, ideas, stories, cultures, people, and some generalists, but less so on the generalist side. And I should also mention that we haven't talked a ton about platform other than a little while ago, but like ideally, all of this is coming to the table with some sort of really robust following community and line to your core true fans.
Yes. So that storytelling aspect really has to be through and through with their brand to really align with your brand, it sounds like.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you've had topics from Black history and its contribution to food and drinks, inspiration from A Court of Thorns and Roses. I haven't read it myself. And you even have migraine pain relief through food, which I find so interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's a market for almost everything and anything. How you tap into that market and should it be a book is what I help determine.
Yeah. I think that would be really difficult because of that statement alone. Like, well, someone should like it or everyone should like this.
Right. Yeah. If you say everyone is going to buy my book, no, but then we're not there.
Yeah. That's very much like when you're being a tech entrepreneur as well. If you're like, hey, everyone's my customer. No, we really got to know who this person is.
Yeah. So up here, this isn't a food book, but the text is written by one of my culinary clients who also is an artist, and the illustrations are done by Rob Eckstein, who's a talented cartoonist. But it's called Inspired by Cats, and it's a book about writers and their muses. You don't get much more niche than that, right?
Yes.
Like writers and cats. And that's not a food book, but it definitely speaks to the need for specificity in the market. And it's like, you got a writer in your life, and if they have a cat, you know you're getting that book for them.
100%.
If they're a dog person, you're not getting that book for them. And that's okay because you know a cat person and you know a dog person.
Yes. Well, I'm a cat person, so I'm going to have to pick that one up.
There you go. Coming into this call.
I always like to say Maud, our very intense, tiny runaround cat. Like she'll
Oh my gosh.
she'll peek up over the stools of my kitchen counter sometimes. And I'm like, okay, executive producer, I'm trying to stay in line here right now.
Her name is Maud.
Yes.
I love that name.
And then our other girl who's big, roly-poly, orange and white tabby, her name is Charlie. Charlotte, but she's a Charlie for sure.
Oh my gosh. So cute.
They are each other's exact opposites. And I will say, yeah, when you have a pet or something else that brings you a lot of joy in life, they can be a big source of inspiration.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and fully.
Well, getting back to books and getting back.
See?
I will always talk.
We know who they are.
Oh, I know. We're going to have to talk about yours too. Yes. And it's a personality type too, where we're like, yes, we like to be quiet and enjoy certain aspects too.
Much like writers.
Yes.
Like writers. Yeah.
Yes.
Going out walking the dog all the time if you're a writer. Well, you can.
You
It's
could.
a different book. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say like that could give you some inspiration and fresh air on its own.
True.
So
Anyway.
let's talk a little bit about the folks who aren't naturally writers. So let's say a chef, restaurateur, or even a really interesting food influencer comes to you and says, I've got this great concept, but I don't feel confident in my own writing. Are you hooking them up with a ghostwriter? What's that process and also like attribution like then?
Yeah, it totally depends on the projects from an attribution standpoint. But if I find someone who there's definitely a story there, we're just not sure how to get it onto the page, I am connecting them with collaborators. And usually it is my preference to work with some sort of named collaborator because in cookbooks. It's not uncommon. Certainly there are ghost collaborators behind the scenes. I know plenty of them, but the projects that are oftentimes collaborations on my specific list are like chefs or talent that are working with a writer.
Yeah.
And we work on the proposal together. So I'll meet someone, you got a book? Yes, I'm interested, blah, blah, blah. We start to work together. And then I'll suggest like 2 or 3 collaborators for them to interview, and we'll find the right match. And then they'll work first on the proposal, which is like a temp check. How do we work together? Communication, expectations, deadlines, all of the above.
Yeah.
And then go out on submission with the proposal. And that collaborator typically stays on to work on the project as well.
Amazing.
And a collaborator might do the writing. They might do editing if the talent is generating the raw content and then sending it off to someone to shape before it goes to their editor in-house. They'll do recipe development if need be, recipe testing, which are 2 different things. And then oftentimes the collaborator knows how to make a book more than that other entity does because they've made a bunch as collaborators and this is the other person's first go around. So they'll do some level of like project management as well.
Sounds very much like Lori Woolover when she worked with Tony Bourdain. And
exactly.
Having a real partnership. Again, she wasn't put behind the scenes totally, which was awesome.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So for folks who don't know, what is the difference between recipe development versus the testing? And how many rounds can that take sometimes? And how long does it actually take?
It completely depends on the person. Development is taking the idea and creating an original recipe from that concept. Testing is a recipe is created and written out and you send it to a third party for testing, where you're like giving them some version of a questionnaire to fill out and follow as they're going through the recipe to give you feedback. It's beyond just does it work. There's many different questions you can ask. It depends on the tester. And in the newsletter that I write, Not So Secret Agent, I have a couple posts that break down the differentiation for those that really want to nerd out about it. So I'll send those to you as well.
Oh, I'd love that. Yes, we have to talk about your Substack as well.
No. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Before we get there, I wonder if you're involved from this perspective too. It's always been very fun for me when I've worked with other startups or my own in the past to essentially be creative director on a shoot. So you're always looking at all those tiny little details, what you actually want this to look like. I am not a photographer or the artist at the end of the day from that aspect, but I'm like, it should be like this. So are you also involved from that perspective where you're on those shoots and seeing, does the style of photography and how everything's coming out match the voice that's throughout the book?
I can be. It is not a requirement. And more often than not, my particular hands in the mix as an agent are like identifying the photographer or putting forward some suggestions for who a photographer could be or an illustrator, whatever the art component is, even suggesting certain stylists that are going to be involved in the project. And with certain projects, I will either be on site or be on all the creative calls or some of the creative calls, looking at mood boards, weighing in. I'm an agent that like has a lot of opinions and I guide or make it known, but ultimately that is not my expertise or my role to make or break those decisions. So if it feels like there's a project that my insight and expertise would be valuable, I will participate more than in others. And I have hundreds of clients all over the world. And so as much as I would love to attend all of those shoots, I don't.
Yes, that would be impossible.
Yeah. I'll show up here and there though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, again, that would be fun for those, as we were, romanticizing in, say, the early 2000s as well, those on-site shoots and how it comes together. So,
and that's another difference over the past 10, 15 years. The communication and the direct line from the author to the different like visual component people in the production of a book, that distance has condensed and there's a lot more direct author say, insight, and even leadership.
I'm sure that makes them feel good. Like they have a better sense of control.
Yeah, there's a lot we should dig into with this. I think part of it comes from finding people that have a very strong visual aesthetic online to then write books. They're undoubtedly going to have more opinions about what they want their book to look and feel like, as they should, because they have that experience now. But before blogs or before Instagrams or TikTok accounts, that wasn't the case. And that's okay too. But it really reflects a data point in the evolution of how cookbooks have evolved.
Yes. And like you said, how important the aesthetics are, especially from a
Yes.
photography standpoint these days.
Yes.
You think
Some
about,
proposals, sorry, I was just going to say, some proposals we even go so far as to design to really reflect what the book's vision will be at the end from a production standpoint.
oh, yeah, that makes so much sense to me because, again, a publisher probably doesn't want to have to guess at that point or go through the
Yeah.
process themselves.
Yep. Yeah.
So, yeah, it reminds me of how little photography or illustrations were even in some of my mom's cookbooks growing up. It was just, here's the recipe, we're getting to the
Yeah.
point. Again, there's no backstory around why it's
Right.
special or a trend
Yeah.
or how it can connect to the reader. It's just, this is how you make it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So, you are leading, as you said, hundreds of authors now. When did you and Lisa decide it was time for you to take reins of the Ekus Group? And tell us about the acquisition that happened last year. You are now a division of JVLNA.
Yeah. So a few years into working with Lisa, we started talking about if this would be the succession plan she wanted and if that's what I wanted. And once we said yes, we set in motion different plans to get us there over the years. And fast forward to 2 years ago, Lisa retired, and I've been leading the agency for quite some time, but Lisa fully retired. And so after that, I decided to merge our agency with another agency called JVNLA that we've had a long-standing symmetry and sisterhood with. So the story of the Jean B. Nagar agency, JVNLA, is that Jean Nagar founded the agency and actually gave Lisa, my mom, her very first job in publishing.
Oh,
And so Lisa and Jean have a history, and now Jean's agency is owned and run by her daughter, Jennifer. And so there's just a appreciation for the parallel of women that run agencies, legacy, and they really did not do much in the culinary space at all. They had a handful of cookbooks on their list, but otherwise I was really bringing a roster and an expertise that could add to their portfolio. And so we started talking about it, and fast forward to today, I get to essentially do the exact same work that I've always done with a little less of the operational headache and a lot more of the colleagues and sort of team,
yeah.
We're alongside each other.
A lot more support, I imagine. So I love too that there was this level of faith,
Yeah.
almost, in all of you coming together, mothers and daughters,
Yeah.
moving forward this legacy. Again, probably an industry, you can tell me if I'm correct or not, that was probably mostly male dominated until you all were stepping in.
Yeah, I mean, Lisa and Jennifer can share probably a little bit more history around that. But yeah, it's been a really beautiful alignment and collaboration. It just made sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And did you feel like your negotiation tactics had to come into play?
We're definitely both acknowledging that it was two agents negotiating with each other. And the reason I was interested in merging with JVNLA is because of their fierce fairness. And so I can really say confidently that was reflected in the outcome of our merger as well.
I'm glad to hear that it didn't feel like things were about to break down from a family friendship of decades.
And when you've had an agency for as long as the Ekus Group and JVNLA were running, there's a level of logistical considerations that newer agencies simply have not lived through. And so we were able to really align on how and where our time in negotiations should be spent. There's no question, frankly.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
no-brainer. What do you think that newer agencies are missing, or newer agents as they're entering this world that perhaps the older guard had in place?
Had in place or carved out. I think the original guard just made it,
That's true.
And it's hard, like mentorship. Like I was hyper mentored by Lisa from day one, being born day one and then joining the agency
Yes.
day one. Two different types of hyper mentorship, but very much related.
Yeah.
And I have been so blessed with access to senior people from the beginning, which is huge. I mean, if you have to claw your way to that access, only a certain type of person is going to be able to do that. And so the role of mentorship is invaluable. And it's something that I participate in both as a recipient and as a facilitator of as much as I can. Because
Yes.
I mean, I owe to the mentorship that allowed me to do what I do, how I do it.
Yes. And it's hard to be in a silo in
Yes.
any type of industry. You're not able to grow, you're not able to make strong relationships. And again, as much as it's good to say update our skills, understanding how things like AI are
Yes.
coming into play with all of us, it's those soft skills that can never be replaced by computers. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about Substack a little
Okay.
bit more. You've got Not So Secret Agent, which so funny. I love
Thank
that
you.
title. But your content is just incredible. I mean, you're very specific. You're working with so many folks. You're crowdsourcing. What made you decide to start your own Substack? What trends are you seeing on Substack for folks who are doing food writing or cookbook writing or just anyone within the F&B space? And why do you think it has become so important specifically for this industry?
Whew. Well,
a lot of questions there. I know.
I'll work backwards, I think. It's become important for our industry because it's a platform that's been around for many, many years, but it's a platform that a lot of people are paying attention to and engaging with right now, which means it's good for our industry because it's the place people are activating and mobilizing and engaging with each other. So there's always going to be that next platform. Substack's having its moment. It's getting investments. There's a big, robust, supportive community. So like people are playing in that sandbox and paying attention. The middle question was about, what's happening with food and beverage in there?
Yeah. A lot of folks on there from this industry.
The more you can have a direct line to your reader, customer, consumer, friend, whoever it is, like the more you can contact them directly, the better. That's gold right now. So Substack is a place to do that among many other great newsletter platforms, I should say. And in the food space, it's just like there's a lot of flexibility there. If you want to write a book, but you don't have a platform, drip it out on a newsletter and see in real time what your reader response is, what kind of feedback you get, and then who finds you and discovers you. There's such a robust recommendation community that you'll grow just by participating. And I think that that is a really lovely, refreshing sandbox to be in.
I was going to ask if you ever recommend to your clients that they should be teasing any of their bits on Substack.
Sometimes, yes. I also recommend that as things get cut from books, to use them as content in their newsletter. So that, So
Smart.
there's just a bunch of different ways that your newsletter can coexist and really support either the launch of a book or the reinvigoration of an older book or an out of print book. Like just thinking constructively about the portfolio of content available to you is exciting for me.
Yes. I loved, again, you're really good about that sense of repurposing, which I think is something folks are afraid to do. But as you build new audiences, they're going to need to see some of your best.
And the other thing that I find myself saying over and over again to Substack colleagues is like, it is your newsletter. Yes, you answer to your readers and you know your readers, or you're getting to know them, or you can get to know them. But at the end of the day, it's your newsletter. You can do what you want.
Yes.
If you want to repost something from your book, you have to get permission rights and all that stuff. But like, you get to post the content you want there. They sometimes lose sight of that. And I just think it's refreshing to remind people, like, if you're driven by your passion and you have something to say, you'll find some people that want to read it, or you'll find some people that want to help you find people that want to read it. And there's really something to be said for that special corner of the internet right now.
Definitely the sense of balancing authenticity, what is true to you, your brand voice, your personality, as well as there's that thing in me that's like, you have to balance it, authenticity, with what is trending right now.
There's a lot of things that I have in my Substack content ideas notebook where I'm like, this would slay in terms of getting readers, but I just can't.
Yes.
That's not who I am. I can't do it. I started in my head, maybe a version of it pops up, and I do these like side notes in my posts where it's a little bit more of either a real-time example or a tangential thought that I have relating to the theme of a newsletter. And my newsletter is for my community, and it's something that I feel very passionate about sharing. but I'm not writing it because I'm working towards a specific goal where I need that clickbait headline. There's some things I could absolutely choose to write about that are just not aligned with my values and the content that I want to put out to my community.
And you feel it when you're making something like that. You drag your own feet. You're like, this feels like one of the worst things I've ever written, but yet I have all of these great SEO like keywords throughout it. So that should help, right?
You could ask about like why I started the Substack. I'm on the other side, getting a tiny taste of what my clients go through all the time, and the SEO and the algorithm and the writing and the deadlines and this and the reader feedback. It's a weird experience to be on this side of that coin. And so I'm over here trying to like figure out a fairly intuitive platform where my clients have been evolving with the changes in blogging for decades. And like, what's a dashboard? So that's also a humbling experience and one that I'm currently still delighting in.
And you probably are starting, I get so obsessed with analytics, and then you have to be like,
that's the sociology.
Let it grow.
Sociology major to me. Bring me back up where I'm like, let's run a survey or do an A/B testing.
Oh my gosh. I do that with clients too, where I'll be like, just ask your audience what they want to hear from you. But then I go on the other side of the coin and say, hey, just remember, not every trend on social media or trending noise or something is for you. You don't have to do it just because other people are doing it. I mean, let's think about certain trending sounds, or like in the last year when everyone was making the AI dolls of themselves.
That really freaked me out. I'm sorry. It really freaked me out.
In the package, it was like, here are my accessories. And the first few, I was like, yeah, that could make sense. And then you get to a point where you're like, not every big brand, this doesn't hit me as their audience or their consumer. Like, it's just obvious that you jumped on the trend.
My accessories are a taco, a wet wipe, and a red pen. I know what they are. Everyone that knows me well knows what they are. I think we're good. We can move on.
Okay, that's brilliant. What would mine be? You know, these days it might be a funny coffee mug. Like a microphone. You're right. So this is one I picked up.
I can't read it.
For folks who don't have their video on, it is a small, cute little kitty that says, bend that bitch, steal that bitch.
There it is. Nice.
Microphone, coffee, and maybe like an ice cream cone or a great slice of pizza.
Nothing wrong. What is it?
Yes.
What are they? What do we call?
Keeps us going. Our little our life accessories. Sally, this is awesome. I know we have just a couple questions before we get to the world's best and hardest question.
Oh my God, I forgot about it. Yeah. All right. How could we possibly forget about the perfect bite?
How could we forget? So, as you're looking to the future, how do you want to continue to grow? What have you been most proud of, and what do you see for yourself, the Ekus Group, and your great clients?
No big deal on that question.
No big deal. Yeah, just a very philosophical question here.
Big picture, I am always looking to grow, and in every project I take on or every pass that I make, I'm always learning. It's one of the many things I love about the work that I have the honor of doing. I also really honor the responsibility to be a responsible gatekeeper. Like agents are one of the gatekeepers in the publishing industry. It's why I have the newsletter, to offer a little bit more transparency and access to information to help people get to where they need to go. And I am both proactively evolving that responsibility that I hold, but also reacting to readers, my clients, and the industry to participate ethically and morally and productively. That's kind of the woo-woo non-specific answer. More specifically, attending conferences, consuming a tremendous amount of industry content, newsletters, resources, workshops. I'm really always working on my own education in this space, and mentorship, both the giving and the receiving. That's a very symbiotic relationship that I value tremendously with the people that I'm in touch with now around that and for what's to come.
Yes. And I think it really is, like you said, you give energy out, you get the right energy in. And in your case, you're really helping get great stories out. And it brings you a lot of joy.
It's amazing.
So I can feel the passion.
Thank you. That means so much. I mean, I am who I am, and we've all lived a lot of life, particularly in the past 5 or 6 years. And so there's just like a humanity to an already hard industry that I feel is important to acknowledge and participate in. Like, we are people working and doing whatever we're doing, however we're showing up in the day. So how can we show up in the most present and thoughtful, productive way?
Yes. And you're sharing that authenticity as well with folks during, like you said, I always like to ask everyone on this podcast, really how you do put on that armor during what is quite a difficult time. I mean, you're at two intersections too. You've got publishing, which is consistently going through this coaster, as well as working with folk in food of agriculture,
Yeah,
hospitality.
it's changed a lot and will continue to change. So, be on the roller
100%.
coaster together.
Yeah, and take it as it comes and try to throw our hands up sometimes and try not to just throw up our lunches the other time.
Or we can throw our hands up because we have like the bar holding us in. So
Yes.
we can ride a little.
Yes, definitely. So what is a piece of advice that you'd want to give anyone wanting to get into publishing or really start their own business, really be their own boss, their entrepreneur self?
I go back to a guiding principle of write, not rushed. I don't think anything is ever perfect. No shade to the current title of this podcast, but in launching a career, like, you're never going to be fully ready. And at some point you do need to say yes and just take that leap and that jump. But in order to set yourself up for a well-informed yes, doing your research, like figuring out who can support you, who are your competitors that probably also are potential collaborators, and how can you participate in whatever the thing is you want to launch, whether it's a book, a business, a balloon cart. Like, you can do a little bit of digging to make sure that you're orienting in at a place where you can enter with some confidence and a collaborative mindset.
Right, not rushed. I'm going to keep holding on to that this week because there are times that I can feel like I'm just busting out whatever I'm doing and not really, it's very meditative as well. It's more about being present.
Yeah, which is ironic because I have a hard time being present, but that's a story for another day. That's my,
we all have to practice.
That's my practice to constantly have a relationship with, for sure.
Yes. And while you said it's tough to have anything perfect, I'll ask you this. I mean, a reminder for folks, this is called the perfect bite because it is trying to be that perfect bite across the food and bev value chain and all the amazing folks who bring it to us. And there is a perfect bite for you. Again, it's not maybe my perfect bite or someone else's, but it came from a moment in time for you or something that you had and enjoyed that will never leave you. So, Sally, what is your perfect bite?
When I was growing up, food was a big part of my life, and my grandparents were amazing cooks, and we often hear about how amazing grandmas are at cooking, but my papi was a really good cook. He had a binder full of single pieces of paper recipes that either were Xeroxed from newspapers or clippings or whatever it was. It was a huge binder full of recipes that had his handwriting and different annotations saying, like, add more this, and the this was always garlic or something amazing. Yes. This handwriting was all over it. And one of the recipes that he used to make all the time was chicken scarpiello, it's like little pieces of chicken cut up. They're dredged in some flour, and oftentimes it has like pieces of, I want to say a sausage, not salami, cut up in it. And there's a lot of lemon, so there's like a tart brightness to the bite with like the warm coating of chicken, and it's in this beautiful sauce. And when I was thinking about this question, I thought back to a particular moment where growing up, I ended up having some food restrictions, like foods I can't eat. I've lived a gluten-free life for over 20 years now, way before there were options in the gluten-free world. And I remember when I had to start living gluten-free and thinking that I would never be able to eat my grandfather's chicken scarpiello again, and just like how devastating that was. And then I went to his house, and he placed on the table a rice flour coating version of chicken scarpiello, and I bit into a dish that I hadn't been able to eat in so long, and it was the perfect bite.
Wow, Sally, you really, this is going to, I'm holding this in right now. That is so beautiful.
He was a great cook.
And he loved you so much.
Really reflects who he was.
Holy cow. This has been in your bloodline for
Oh, yeah.
generations.
Oh, yeah.
Your love of food, but your sense of care and how you're getting those dishes out to people. And again, as someone with food allergies myself, there is nothing like someone making you feel special and safe to participate. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity to remember it and share it quickly with whoever's listening.
Yes. Well, we'll have to get the recipe if it's out.
It's in the binder. We all got a photocopy of the binder when he died. Like, we shared it with the whole family. So I'll have to dig up that particular recipe if I can find it.
That should go on your Substack. That would be a lovely, just memory and a lovely tribute, I should say.
Thank you. What a delight, Sarah.
Thank you. So as we wrap up here, can you let folks know who we should be reading next from the Ekus Group? What special books are coming out as we go into fall and winter 2025? And then let us know where to follow on social, the website, and any upcoming events you know about.
Can keep track of all the books we have coming up on the agency and my Instagram account. So my Instagram is at Sally Ekus, Ekus, and the agency is at JVNLA. We'll always be sharing the books there. And then my Substack, Not So Secret Agent, is the place where I share industry insights and information with a taste of my personal life in the ways that it pops up and intersects with my professional life. And those are the best ways to keep tabs on what's going on and stay in the know.
Amazing. We'll make sure to include all those in the show notes. Sally, thank you again so much. This was such a pleasure. And everyone, this was Sally Perfect Bite. Thanks for tuning in to The Perfect Bite today. You can listen to future episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you listen to podcasts. Thanks in advance for subscribing, rating, and reviewing. You can follow The Perfect Bite on social media at Perfect Bite Pod. Now go get something good to eat.